There we go. All right. So we're going to graph number 7 on page 359. All right, what form is this in? Point slope form. And hopefully you can just see it. You're like, oh yeah, this is that point slope form. And the general form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. That's your general form. The reason I draw that is so we can compare things quickly. What's your slope? Y? -2. Yeah, and you can say -2 or 1. I'll leave it -2 for now. What's your point? And be very careful here, because it can be tricky with the signs. Taylor. -1, -5 is correct. I think that's +5, so now it's -5, +1, -1. Think of its opposite of what's written in point slope form. Not in every form, but in this form, yes. All right, I have enough to start my graph. Okay, what quadrant is -1, -5 in? Quadrant. Third quadrant, and you notice how my slope is going. Do you know what direction it's going to go, left to right? It's going to go down. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to draw my y-axis, and then I'm going to kind of emphasize that third quadrant, because that's where most of my graphing is going to be done. Okay, -1, -5, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, here's my first point. What's my rise over my run? Two ways to put it. What's one way? -2 over +1. The other way to write it would be yeah, 2 over -1. You can say it either way. All right, if you're going to use this form, where should you go? You should go, everybody, down 2 over 1 to the right. All right, so I'll draw my other tick mark. Down 2 over 1 to the right. So somewhere around here. But I need one more point. So I'm going to use the other slope. I'm going to go up 2 over 1 to the left. Let me make sure I get this. Oh, this is up 2. My tick marks are going to be bad, unfortunately. Up 2 over 1. So like somewhere right there. It looks something like that. I love graph paper. It's so helpful. Okay, how many of you got something like this? Okay, I need you to look at a couple things that I'm going to point out because it's going to help you with graphing. So everyone, stay with me because these are like little tips to help you graph. Okay, when I found my slope, and we kind of already talked about this, but I want to make sure you get it. What's my slope's sign? Negative, right? When it's simplified all the way, it's negative. That means left to right, my slope has to go, or my line has to go downward. So the inverse would be, if my slope were positive, from left to right, my graph has to go upward. That is always the case. If you have a positive slope and you're doing this direction, it's wrong. It cannot be true. Another thing here I want you to notice on this first graph is this, because it's going to help us to tie in some of the concepts we looked at a couple chapters ago. Ready? From here to here, where do I go? How far up do I go? 3 up and then over, which is described right there. From here to here, I go down over 1 to the left, right? We get that? I want you to ignore this middle point and look at this bottom point and the top point. How far do I go up? And then how far do I go over? I went 6 over 2, which is 3 over 1. And the reason it works is because 3 over 1, or 3, is what type of number? R, A, T, I. It's a ratio. It's a comparison of two numbers. Yes, it's rational. Yes, it's positive. Okay, but it's a ratio. It compares any 2 points. So let me give you a little hint. If I wanted another point way up there, I can get it. And I could go up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. Or I can go up 12 over 4. Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
So if I go up 12, this is already 6, and then another 6. I go over 4, I would hit a point on that line because it's a ratio. Do you understand that?
What if you went up 2 and then went over 2/3?
All right, so we're going to have a fire drill, but not anymore. You could do like this. You can have 1.5 and 0.5. So you can go up. From here, you can go up 1.5 and then over half. And you would get on that point. It's any ratio.
Go up 2 and over 2/3.
Up 2 and over 2/3. I'm trying to do that calculation. Up 2 over 2/3.
Wouldn't that be right?
6 over 2. So up 2. 1, 2. Over
2/3.
2/3. Yep, it would work. Any ratio. Sorry, I have to think through that ratio. Any ratio would work. If it equals 3 over 1. All right, let's keep going here. How many of you kind of get this graphing with point slope form? I think you guys are doing well. You're doing so well that on page 360, I need you to do number 17. Number 17, if you can. Okay, who can give me my slope? Hayes? 3. Who can give me a point? Ellie?
5 and 2.
5 and 2. That's correct. So if you know, and this is what's cool about the name, you're like, hey, that's point slope form. So I must have a point and the slope. So now you figure it out. And if you have a point in the slope, you have enough to graph because you can get the other points now.
Wait, I know what's going to happen in this lesson. You're going to turn standard forms. It's going to be all the forms.
Into one ultimate problem? What a great idea. All right, 5, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 2. And then my slope is 3, which is also 3 over 1. So I go where from here? Tell me another point to get and how I would get there. Harper, how do I get to the next point? You have options. Say that again? Yeah, how far up? You're like, I don't know. Yep, up 3 over 1 to the right. So 1, 2, 3 over 1, somewhere right here. How do I get that other point to the left of my original point? Does anyone know how to give me that point to the left? Katie? 1, 2, 3. 1 to the left. So like right here somewhere. And because my scale is not perfect, I will not have a perfect line. But that's what you should have. You guys okay with that? Okay. I'm not going to help you out in this next one. It's number 19. You just do it on your own.
It's impossible.
Nothing's impossible.
Good. Thank you. 19, please. And I like this problem because it's going to help you out in some of these more difficult ones. You take it the same way you did the last time. That's not point slope form, or is it? Yeah, and if you're looking at and thinking that can't be point slope, just use the symmetric property and you're going to get, or I should say the reflexive property, and you'll get y plus 3 halves equals 2 times x minus 3. So I just switched both sides. It's like a scale that got everything switched to the other side. And this is what I get. And if that's the case, then I can find my slope, which is 2, and my point, which is
3 and negative 3 over 2.
3 and negative 3 halves, or negative 3 over 2. Now, when you're graphing this, you have to graph it accurately. So, what's throwing me off is this negative 3 halves part. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this set up. I'm going to draw my lines a little bigger for emphasis. So don't be scared of fractions. It happens, and we'll be ready for it. Okay, 3 and negative 3 halves. 1, 2, 3. Where in the world do I go for 3 halves? Down 1.5, which is about here.
What?
1.5. You see, negative 3 over 2 is negative 1.5. Are you guys okay with negative 3.5? Or sorry, negative 1.5? Okay, so you put that point in. But what's my slope?
2 over 1.
2 over 1. So where do I go from here? Up 2. So I go 1, 2 over 1. Right about here. You didn't make it all the way to positive 1. You made it about halfway there, which cut me some slack on that because I didn't get it exactly there. But, or you can go, which way? How do I go the other way? Go down to 1, 2, and go to the left 1. It's like somewhere right there. You guys see how that works? Just the way it worked before. Yes, sir. Okay, you could do that. I would say don't get to that point because you're going to have thirds as well and fourths and and that could be really technical. So keep it like this and just go right in between. But if you wanted exact Eli, you would do that. And here's my line.
In the middle?
Oh, yes.
Like, do you count this?
No.
Like 1, 2?
You count like a whole jump. So you went up 1, 2, over 1.
Oh.
Or you go down 2, over 1. And that's the hard part because you see how it makes it a little bit less or more slanted?
Yeah.
So that's going to be your line. Okay. Any questions on that? How many of you can look at the point slope form and get the slope and the point? How many of you can graph that point, then the slope? Okay, let's go to the last type that I'm going to look at today. And it is using the slope-intercept form. Can I ask you guys this question? Compared to using tables, is this method that we just looked at easier or harder? Easier. Easier. Good. So we're glad that we have shortcuts. Let's look at example number 2 on page 357. This is the last type I'll give to you. And so we're looking at 3/4 x plus 1/2 y equals 4. All right, this problem in example 2 says graph, and then they give you this equation.
You can get from standard to the
Yep, you can go, and I'll say this, you can go to many different ways to graph this. Let me give you maybe the easier way. If you can get an equation into slope-intercept form, it's going to make graphing the easiest. Slope-intercept form. Okay, ready? In slope-intercept form, where is y? It is all by itself. So is this all by itself? So how do I do that? So I'm going to subtract the negative 3/4. I'm not going to multiply by 4 yet. You'll see why. There's something that's going to be really helpful. All right, so I get here the 1/2 y equals, and then this next step that I'm going to write down, I need you guys to try to get down. So once you're here, please stay with me. So right here, so right at this part, I'm going to write it not 4 minus 3/4 x. I'm going to write it as negative 3/4 x plus 4. Is that allowed?
Yes, it is.
Because instead of saying these are being subtracted, I can say they're being added. And I can switch around terms. All right, is y by itself? What do I have to do to get y by itself? Multiply both sides by 2.
Because if you multiply by 4, you still have 2y.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get here 2y, and then you'll have to divide by 2 anyway, which, again, you're thinking well, but you want to get y by itself. And so the best way is to multiply by 2. What's 2 times half y?
1y.
Yeah, it's just 1y, or 1 times y. And then here you got to make sure you use distributive property. So what's negative 3/4 x times 2? Yeah, negative 6/4, which is negative 3/2 x. Leave it as an improper, because that'll help you to graph it easier. And then what's 4 times 2? Positive 8. What form is that in?
That is slope-intercept.
Okay, y equals mx plus b. It's in slope-intercept form. Okay, so if you see it as slope-intercept form, you know you have the slope and the...
Intercept.
Which intercept is it? Y-intercept. Okay. What is the slope according to this equation? Negative 3/2. And what is your y-intercept? Positive 8. Does anyone remember what the y-intercept means? What does that mean? Y-intercept. Taylor?
Point the line crosses the y-axis.
So if I have my y-axis right here, at positive 8, that line crosses that axis. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. That's kind of high on the y-axis, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to emphasize the first and second quadrants again and go up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, man. Okay, and then I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4. You're not doing very many graphs tonight, so you have space. You can use space, and you can use multiple graph pieces of paper. That's okay. All right. I have my slope and my y-intercept, right? So we said that the y-intercept is where that line crosses the the y-axis. So if I go here, is this the y-axis? Where's positive 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's right here. That's your first point. So I do have a point. It's 8 on the y-axis. And do you guys remember how I would list the ordered pair here? What's the ordered pair for the y-intercept? It's 0, 8. And isn't this 0, 8?
Oh.
Do you guys remember on your table? Remember how I always made you pick 8 or 0?
Yeah.
You know why? Because I always wanted you to get the y-intercept. Always. Because once you get the y-intercept, and now you'll see it even better, you can use that slope and you can get your other points easily. Y-intercept is so important. We like it. And it's the easiest one to work out, by the way. All right, what's my slope?
-3/2.
So what does that mean? Where do I go from here? Someone help me out. I need another point. I need another point to get a line. Eli? Say that again?
I wasn't raising my hand.
No, I'm calling you. Sorry, Eli. You've been selected. What do you think? -3/2. So you should go down. Down 3. 1, 2, 3. over 2 to the right, somewhere around there. All right, you guys notice how my graph, like I could go up here, but it's kind of getting off my graph a little bit. So you can go another one. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 2, 1, 2. So you have your third point, connect the two, and then you have your line. Yes, ma'am?
Can you go down 3 halves and over 1?
Yes, because this is actually a complex fraction too, yeah.
Is it
In disguise. You okay with that? Yep, you can do that. Yes. Yep. Yes, just a few problems. All right, you guys okay with that? Yes, sir. No, sir. All right, good. Your homework tonight. Listen carefully. If your ears are not listening, you will do more or fewer problems than you need to. All right, I'm not giving you like 18 to 27 odd or even. I'm just doing select problems because we didn't cover the whole lesson. So I need you to get. Does anyone need another graph sheet of paper? All right, you're going to do this on this next graph sheet of paper. This is turned into me. Can you pass these out, Kendall? Thank you. Once you get them, I'll give you your assignment. Keep your hand up if Kendall comes by. Don't make her, oh, I needed to get some, Kendall. Why didn't you see my hand? Because it wasn't up. That's why. Help her out. That's respectful. Thank you. And I hope I have enough. I'm going to quit the recording here.